Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn, and I run the services at MedCommsNetworking.com. So, information resources services for people who work in and around the global MedComms community, by which I mean people who work in and around medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, and the associated businesses. Um, and we do a lot of work for people, providing information for people who want to come into MedComms. So maybe you want a job as a medical writer or an account manager or so on. And we do lots of webinars and video meetings and so on. We capture them and we record them, and you'll find at NetworkPharma TV there's now the best part of 500 videos. So lots of resources to go and have a look at if you're interested in our business or working in our business. I'm having a bit of fun at the moment, and I'm talking to people from across the community, and as it were, talking about their MedCom story. I'm delighted to be joined by Jeremy today from HCG. So Jeremy, just kick us off by telling us who you are and where you are.
Hi, Peter. Thank you. My name is Jeremy Williams, and I'm a group director with HCG, which is the Healthcare Consultancy Group, which is fundamentally a global MedComms agency with 8 distinct agencies in the UK and the US.
Excellent. And to go a little bit further, because HCG is part of Omnicom, isn't it? Just to describe the bigger picture as well, yeah?
Oh, it's a big picture indeed. Yes. So HCG, approximately 1,000 plus employees, is part of the Omnicom Health Group, which itself is a collection of all agencies spanning the spectrum of health communications. So that's not just MedComms, but also PR, promotional, and beyond. And that's around, say, 4,500, 5,000 people. And then that's also then part of the mega Omnicom group as a whole.
Okay. So let's go right back to the beginning. How did you start? How did you get in? Tell us a bit about your journey.
Oh, yeah, I think journey is a good word actually, because it's definitely not a destination. You know, MedComms, like many people, I stumbled across, but I've been blessed with a wonderful journey, which has brought me many exciting opportunities and experiences. So I'll just touch key points through the journey. Won't dwell on and bore people with job descriptions and all that, etc. So yes, I come from a strange background for a MedComms of. I come from a big musical and performing arts family and background, and my inspiration and intrigue for the science was simply, the innovation of science, which steered me in university towards the area of biochemistry and molecular biology. And while I loved the science and the discovery, I knew I wasn't destined to be a lab rat. So I augmented my science then with an MBA. I did some postgrad in management science focused on the biotech sector. My early career moved me towards working with societies like the Bioindustry Association and working at an industry consultancy level with companies like the Anderson Consulting, again, in the biotech space. But great as the experience was, there was something missing from working at this industry level consultancy, which was basically creativity and the innovation. And then, as I mentioned, like so many, basically stumbled across MedComms sector and agencies. So I entered MedComms through the discipline of client services in the creative MedComms agency, and this fired up basically and captured passions missing from the sectors I've already worked in. And 3 things come to mind, if I recall. The experience of being part of a much smaller intertwined team or multidisciplinary team, as we all use the phrase in the sector, which is fun because you had all these sort of distinct individuals with distinct values, which brought with it then glorious camaraderie. But also then there was the opportunity to integrate the science with the creativity, with the innovation, which is a lovely type of equation to blend together. And finally, the size of agencies is important. There are big agencies, smaller agencies, but they're all of they're not a huge, giant entity. So, and that type of agency size allows the opportunity to really feel you make a difference within that type of organization you work. So, I've loved working with a wealth of pharma clients over the years, based in the US and also in Europe, with a heavy events focus initially, and which brought with it then the joys of traveling, congresses, symposia, standalones, ad boards, and beyond. And which is great actually, because that actually catalyzed a huge passion for myself and my subsequent family, which is all about adventuring and traveling, literally as a everyday hobby now. And I thank that to basically the foundations of travel I got in MedComms. And also, thanks to my work in MedComms, I've had the pleasure of living and working in both the UK and also the US. But I mentioned, my first avenue going into the sector was through client services. And I think this is a great place to work and evolves one career in so many ways. It gives you the chance to work directly with clients at the cutting edge, learning all about accountability, living and managing diverse clients and stakeholders, and there are many diverse clients to manage out there. There's the exciting world of pitching. There's the joy and journey from brief through to brainstorm, through to delivery, through to reality, and also the natural transition then, augmentation with business development as well. So, so MedComms gave me, the great opportunity then to move to the US and also to build up a new agency unit there, and also subsequently to head it up as well. And through a good solid foundation in client services, I think, and also in business development, I've enjoyed a wealth of subsequent opportunities, roles, including being a member of the board, president, holding company leadership, CEO, the list goes on. And then fast forward today, my career has brought me to HCG, a healthcare consultancy group. As I mentioned, this is a group of 8 MedComms agencies in the UK and the US, and all distinct in their own way. But also it's a group which is very much aligned to my own passions, which is basically a passion for that innovation and creativity blended with the science.
Okay, so let's pick up just one point and just clarify where you are at the moment as a global director of those eight agencies within the group. Just clarify. I mean, you're in a leadership position across those agencies. What sort of coordinating, making sure, because there's a degree of what's the right way of putting it? It's great having those different agencies. I guess there's a competitive element, but there's also a complementary element. So is your role to try and sort of like bring that together as a group?
Yes, we have 8 great agencies, and as I mentioned, each one distinct in its own unique capability, but also personality as well. And our function from a group level is very much to help support and power the growth of those agencies. It's the agencies, who are at the front line, and basically, we're able to pull together certain expertise to support those agencies. And as you mentioned, they may overlap in their capability, but they do bring the benefit of synergy between them is far greater. So there's a great opportunity to coordinate and pull together 2 or 3 agencies with unique expertise or skills to be able to give the client a certain package of offering which they wouldn't get from a single agency. And we do all this also, not just at HCG level, but at an Omnicom Health Group level as well. So there's a lovely medley or orchestration of agency capabilities.
Okay. So look, I'm being a bit slightly rude. You've been around a while, I'm older than you, so not as long as me, sort of thing. But you've been around a while, and and particularly on the event side. So let's just explore that a little bit. I mean, there's been a lot of changes. Let's face it, over the last 10, 20 years. Just talk a little bit about some of the changes as you see them, and maybe let's just focus a little bit more on the event side than anything else. How do you see things have changed and how things are different now? Particularly, I mean, it's accelerated in the last couple of years with the pandemic and so on. But overall, how do you see things have changed?
Well, I think, to use your phrase, the rate of acceleration in the past few years has been huge. It's been a exponential curve. MedComms from an event side was changing. It was a bit gradual because big organizations or pillars of the community, such as congresses, were the anchor points and in a way holding back changes. But there was a general change, and accountability with regard to costs, etc., and travel, and all that stuff was moving slowly. But of course, bang, here comes 2020, here comes COVID, and things just changed. Literally, well, it was overnight, as we know. And even today, 2020 and COVID feels so far behind us, but the winds of change are really still, the winds of change remain, simple as that. And while the world and sectors have moved on from COVID, that theme of transformation really continues. And yes, we see it across society, in economics, in politics, overall society, but also specifically in our own sector of MedComms.
And so I'm going to push you a little bit further. I'm interested in the changing ways in which, HCPs behave, and I mean, we still need to communicate with healthcare professionals or opinion leaders or doctors or however you define the group. But it's not as easy now as they're all going to go to the annual congress of something or other once a year, so we'll just hit that congress. I'm just trying to tease out a little bit more your sense of how that sort of is changing, how we're communicating people differently or not, I guess, is the basic point.
Oh, I think there's a number of things. We've got new fast emerging therapies and data sets, from genetic medicines through to prescription digital therapeutics. We've got the embracing of real world evidence. We've got new audiences on the rise, the rise of the patient, new generational engagement, turbocharged by technology advances, communication needs, attitude changes, a new key focus on health disparities and inequities. Not to mention the big elephants in the room, the new technologies, the new channels impacting content and reach, omni-channel implementation, the big promise of AI, metaverse, ... the list goes on. There's a lot happening. But it isn't just a case of these aren't just changes. If we have to step back, we continually hear and feel the media phrases of perma-crisis and chronic crisis or continuous chaos in everyday media. And I believe MedComms is actually part in an era of constant transformation now.
And I quite flippantly quite often say MedComms is booming, but would you agree with that? Is that a fair headline to put out there?
I think it is. We've already seen pre, and I hate to use COVID as the watershed, but pre-COVID, there's already a transition of the empowerment and the importance of medical affairs and MedComms. That was already happening, and that plus the focus on education, the rebalancing of sales versus MSLs. There's lots of these factors, and yes, MedComms is booming, but it's booming in an exciting time of transformation.
Okay. And let's talk about working practice a little bit. Again, you've seen a lot of change in working practices. Yeah. If I can say you're sitting at home at the moment, aren't you? So, many of us are, sort of thing. I am. Again, how have you seen that, and how positives, negatives? Can you give us a few of each, sort of thing?
I think with the changes we've seen, and just to pick up the point you made about working practices, home versus the office, etc. It does give from an individual perspective a lot of benefits, freedoms, etc. But then from an organizational and a team perspective, it brings challenges such as connectivity and connection. And so applying the old mindsets to the new ways of working doesn't work. So you've got to readapt and compensate for that. And also the office, historically was the place I go to work. The desk was the place I used to go to work in the office. But now, your place of work is actually at home, and the office now needs to change its function, not as the place to work, but maybe as the place to meet, the place to learn, the place to brainstorm, the place to collaborate. So it's a different function for the office. So yeah, exciting times.
And I suppose what I was trying to tease out was a little bit of the what about the negative side? Not negative is the wrong word, but the challenging side of it. And you mentioned connectivity. I mean, I guess the implication is you've got to make sure that everyone's connected. But do you still think that we're still in a bit of a learning situation? I mean, some people like working at home. Some people would prefer to go back to the office. I mean, as director of a global organization and the sort of numbers, I guess there's quite a lot of balancing you've got to do between different parts of that organization wanting to work in slightly different ways. And individuals.
Absolutely. And I think you have to compensate. There was all this basically invisible culture binding stuff of simply chatting, to use the cliche, chatting at the water cooler, hopping outside to get a sandwich with a friend, and all those conversations you'd have, which were out of meeting, off agenda, which are all valuable. And now, especially when your staff community is remote, you have an organization now has to really put its shoulder and lean into employee engagement far more, and not just because of the working practices, but also there's been a shift in the power of the employer versus the employee, and that's going to be taken into account. So we as an organization need to earn our employees more.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really interesting area actually. But one specific question I just wanted to ask you, and I'm guessing you're going to basically nod your head at me, but have you got a view on it? I think it's very clear in the last few years, and partly for all the sorts of points you've already talked about, and changing working practice and acceleration and technology, all those sorts of things. I think MedComms is reaching out to many more types of people, different communities to draw on in terms of recruiting staff. So it seems to me it's becoming much more of a mixed church. People are coming in from different directions, but there's probably quite a lot we need to do to reach out to more diverse groups of people. Would you sort of just agree with me, or have you got a comment on that side of things?
Yes, I do agree, and I think we, due to the the new dynamic of MedCom and the focus on innovation, the digital transformation, yes, it's a very different picture of what MedComms was even say 4 or 5 years ago. And so we do need a lot more breadth of expertise in those areas to complement, the backbone expertise in science and strategy, etc. So yes, it's amazing, it isn't just a case of having, your scientists, your client service, and a creative anymore. You have, and it isn't just a digital, but you have digital strategists, the social media folks, the data analysts. There's so many more people, and that means basically your recruitment funnel is far wider now.
And I think that's an exciting thing, and it's an exciting message to get out there about MedComms, I think, in terms of appealing to lots of different sorts of people. So I guess, I mean, I'll wrap up now because we're sort of running out of time, but I just think, listening to you talking, I mean, there's enthusiasm in there, and it's an exciting business to be part of. And I think that's a good message to get out there. And what I would say, anybody that's watching this or listening to this on the podcast or whatever, is, I know I can say for you, you're very happy to hear from people. LinkedIn is an easy way of doing it, sort of thing. So, part of the point of these exercises is just to get people connecting with each other. But I think just listening to you talk, it's great because it's an exciting business, and that comes through from what you're saying. So thank you very much for that. I'm very happy to hear from people if I can help, and certainly MedComms is a place to go and have a look at what we're up to. But just for today, Jeremy, thank you very much. Let's give a bit of a wave and say goodbye. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.